Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph, and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. Have you ever wondered which stage stacker you are, and what you should be focusing on based on that stage? Most people think of stacking as just one continuous journey of buying more metal, but it's actually not. There are some stages to stacking, and each stage requires a different focus, a different mindset, and a different purpose for the silver that you're holding. Congratulations to my wife for being the first to get to my comments in my last video. Thank you so much for your support. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to do any of this without you. So we are beginning a series of videos looking into the different stages of stacking, not defined by how many ounces you own, not defined by how much money you spent, but defined by structure, because stacking evolves. And if you don't understand the stage of stacking you're in, your strategy can feel scattered. You end up buying randomly, reacting emotionally, or focusing on the wrong things at the wrong times. And today we're talking about the beginner stage. And I might define it a little bit different than most people. Some people think that a beginner stacker is just someone with a smaller stack, but it's really someone with a silver stack that has not fulfilled its purpose yet. So let's talk about the purpose of a beginner stacker's stack. This beginning stage is what I call the stability layer. This is where your first silver has a job, and that job is not speculation, it's not collecting, it's not preparing for the collapse of the monetary system. It's much more simple than that. Its job is to absorb shocks. Beginner stackers need to consider something that rarely gets talked about in this community: everyday emergencies. Insurance deductibles, car repairs, rental cars, unexpected hotel stays, appliance replacements, and even job loss that can turn into a short-term income interruption. These are not the end-of-the-world problems, these are normal life problems. And if your reaction to an emergency event involves some panic and scramble over finances, your foundation stack is not laid yet. And that's okay, you'll soon get there. Instead of thinking of ounces first, think in scenarios. Add up your insurance deductibles, add up 1 or 2 months of basic expenses, think about what a realistic car repair would cost, and think about how much it would cost to temporarily relocate yourself for a week or so. That number, whatever it is, becomes your stage 1 target. And then simply divide that by the current silver spot price, and that gives you a goal in ounces for your beginner foundational stack. A key component here is that you want this to be a low emotion silver stack. This could be a whole stack of American Silver Eagles, or it could be a whole stack of generic silver. For me personally, I might rather sell a stack of American Eagles than some of the generic silver that I have. So this becomes what you are least interested in. You want to make sure that this is what builds your foundation. Low emotion silver is simple, it's liquid, and it's replaceable. Recognizable pieces like the American Silver Eagle or generic rounds, nothing rare, nothing sentimental, nothing you would hesitate to part with. If you had to sell it tomorrow, there'd be no emotional attachment. Well, of course, we would all feel bad selling any silver, but you wouldn't regret it. You wouldn't think, wow, I really didn't want to let go of that 1 ounce. And that's important because at this beginner stage, silver is functioning as a shock absorber. And here's a key distinction. I'm not saying you need to stack extremely liquid cash instead of silver. I'm saying your first silver needs to function like liquidity. And there's a big difference. If you don't have this layer covered, you're still in the beginner stage. It's not because you failed or did it wrong, or not because you don't own enough. It's just that you're still laying your foundation. And that doesn't mean you can't also buy the things you like. You can't also buy collectibles. I would just suggest that you focus more on this low emotional silver until you build up this foundation. Even gold, something like American Gold Eagles, is not ideal for this layer. Gold is excellent for long-term preservation, but is not designed for small to medium emergencies. It's too concentrated. It's more strategic, and that comes later. Stage 1 is about removing fragility, making sure that your stack is not so fragile that even one emergency can wipe it out completely, or wipe out enough of it that you have to sell the pieces you really enjoy. And once your emergency layer is covered in low emotion silver, something changes psychologically. You stop stacking out of fear and you stop reacting to headlines. You stop feeling like one unexpected expense could force you to liquidate everything at the wrong time. And that's the moment you begin transitioning out of this beginner stage. When you officially leave stage 1, your silver is no longer your absolute first line of defense. It just becomes a part of a larger strategy. And that's when allocation starts to matter. That's when gold becomes intentional, and when you move from stacking randomly to designing deliberately. But that's the next stage. For now, if you're a beginner stacker, focus on building stability first. Give your silver a defined purpose. Make it low emotion, make it functional, and make it capable of absorbing life's normal shock. Because stacking isn't just about owning the metal, it's about building a financial structure. And a structure always starts with stability. So now let's make it practical and a little bit personal. For me, I measure my emergency layer in months of income. Not because that number's magical, but because it's simple and realistic. Months of income naturally account for deductibles, short-term living expenses, and unexpected disruptions. For me, 3 months of income is about $12,000, and that's my stability target. If silver was at $88 an ounce, which it is today, that works out to roughly 136 ounces of silver. That means that the first 136 ounces in my stack aren't speculative. They aren't collector pieces. They aren't my long-term holding legacy gold pieces. They are just my shock absorbers. They're low emotion silver. If I had to liquidate some of that to handle a real emergency, I wouldn't hesitate. That silver has already done its job the moment it removed the fragility from my life. Now, your number may be different, and I really hope it is, because I want you to perform the mental exercise of actually calculating out what these expenses would cost, and what it would feel like to sell this silver to cover these expenses. If even imagining selling this much silver or these specific ounces feels very harsh and emotional to you, it may be that you should start stacking different types of silver to cover this basis. It may be that even if you think of yourself as an advanced stacker because you have 500 or 1,000 ounces of silver, even if you wouldn't want to sell any of it to cover these emergencies, it might mean that you should take a step back and consider yourself a beginner again until you have enough highly liquid, low emotion silver. Another thing is I simply just picked 3 months. You might want to pick 6 months or a year, and that's the point. It's not that it's a number of ounces, it's a number that you feel comfortable with laying down that foundation. When your silver has a defined purpose, when you know exactly how many ounces represents your emergency layer, stacking starts to feel completely different. Once that layer is complete and you feel completely stable in your stack, your strategy changes. Because after the stability comes the structure. After low emotion silver comes intentional allocation. After emergency coverage comes design. And that's where gold begins to enter the picture, as well as collectible silver. That's where ratios matter, and where you stop stacking for safety and start stacking for preservation and optimization. And that's where we're going to talk about in part 2, the intermediate stage of stacking, where your metals stop being a shock absorber and start becoming a strategy. And if you don't know what stage you're in, it's hard to know what to focus on. So I challenge you to do these mental exercises. What would a realistic emergency fund look like for you, and how much silver does it take to actually cover that? Do you have it? Do you have it in low emotional silver? If you do, you might be ready for the next phase. I just made my own line of coffee. Joseph's Reserve's It's Today Again coffee. Most mornings aren't dramatic. They're quiet. You wake up, pour yourself a cup, and now you have a choice. Drift through the day or take hold of what's in front of you. That's really what this whole thing's about. showing up, building good habits, staying disciplined in the small things. Whether that's stacking consistently, learning something new, or just being faithful with what you've been given. I put these words on every bag to remind myself first. Every morning is a gift. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. So take a breath, take a sip, and let's get to work. It's today again. You can now write me at Joseph's Reserves, 10160 Highway 242, Suite 800, number 401 in Conroe, Texas, zip code 77385. Make sure to include your information so I can write you back. If you like the video, make sure to go down and give it a thumbs up and share it to anyone you think might like it as well. Go into the comments for any questions or comments about the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. But most of all, thank you so much for watching, and just remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, just keep stacking.